Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The greatest wealth transfer of money is taking place from the rich to the poor. I'll rephrase it again. The transfer of wealth in the hands of the few is transferring into the hands of the many. What that simply means is that the greatest of this transfer has already taken place, and we're seeing the end result of that transfer. If you are to listen to the TV moguls and the YouTube pundits, they'll give you the illusion that the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That is not the truth. Check for yourself, check for your neighbors. They're doing very well. The inflation is the encouragement. You are being encouraged through inflation to transfer your monies from US petroleum dollar-based money or Bank of England notes or euros and transfer it into something more faithful or wholesome like Bitcoin, gold, and silver. Now, Bitcoin will win over supremely. It is the store of value, quote unquote. The same pundits that once told you how the rich get richer and how the poor get poorer, and that you should buy houses and real estate property and so on and so forth, are all trained. Most of them are being trained or have been trained by the Olympians in order to sell you those things they know that you don't have ownership of. Like a particular gentleman out of Arizona, just like that fraudster that infiltrated David Wayne Miller. They were trained there to perform these illusions for mankind unwittingly, encouraging you to invest in real estate, how real estate is the biggest thing that you can invest and get yourself into huge quantities of debt and try to live off of that. Now, these mechanisms are usually insider mechanisms. Let me explain to you what an insider mechanism is. If you haven't been approved or protected by the market makers, not the market forces, there are no market forces. There are market makers. These are ones that make your stock market, your currency, your gold, your silver, the technologies that you use, the airplane tickets. If you have not been approved by them, then you are just a competitor. So for this very one famous individual that would tell you, how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, they're all selling you the same garbage as the mainstream media does. Now, we deal with hundreds of mortgages, debt pledges, property, real estate investors that just simply examine their document and think, or their ownership document and think, and see and read that they own nothing. Even those properties that they have bought outright, what they call freehold properties, mortgage free, incumbent as they call it, actually are not owned by them. They were just under the illusion. And people that were selling these mechanisms for you to own as if you actually owned it are all part of those tricks and traps. And why am I telling you this? Those same pundits are telling you you're getting poorer. No. all you are doing is transferring your wealth into another store of value. That is your sweat equity. Through mechanisms like blockchain that are actually decentralized. You understand what decentralized means? It means the so-called de facto corporate government, as well as your landowners. These are the chieftains that actually own your own homes. That's why they call you a tenant, even though you're supposed to be mortgage-free and incumbent, are the ones that actually really own it. And all the time you have just been caretakers, and they owe you millions in caretaker back pay. They'll tell you that you're going to get poorer and poorer and poorer. No. Do you know what the individuals that are out there doing? They're just simply borrowing as much money as they can on a percentage rate and just simply buying up Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and businesses and etc. because their investments, just by default, just by not even doing anything about it, is going up round about 150%, and worst case scenarios 100% year on year. As to opposed to the 5%, 6%, or even 8% of the fiat currency that has an interest rate on it. So if you borrow $100,000 from the Federal Reserve Bank, and they want 8%, or let's say 10%, which is extraordinarily high, 10% interest per annum, and you just borrowed it for a year, all they want back is 100,000 plus 10,000, 110,000. Whereas those people that are investing in Bitcoin, investing in other elements, their own properties, as it were, or assets, I don't mean physical properties, their own assets, their own education, their assets are growing at 100 to 150% year on year. Yeah, as to opposed to a 10% interest rate. We're dealing with, they're getting an interest rate return on their investment of 100 to 150%, and in some years 200%. Like Bitcoin sometimes goes up year on year 200%. Yeah, 200%, as to opposed to the 10% that the Federal Reserve want back. You see, the trick of the Federal Reserve Bank, ladies and gentlemen, all around the world, was actually not have any proof of work. Listen carefully. These are beautiful, big, wonderful words, that resonate a lot of meaning. But let's explore the meaning. Proof of work simply means that I manufacture this, okay? But I don't tell you how I sponsored and how I managed to set up a manufacturing company to manufacture this pen. And that means I have not shown that I have shown proof of work of how I made this pen. Where did I get the monies and the funding to buy this, to manufacture this pen for me to give it to you or sell it to you or make it offer to sell? Yeah, that means it's an offer and it's an offer for you to buy. Those are all contract words in conventional language. Long as they don't have proof of work, that means somebody else worked for their issues. And that was you. Inadvertently, innocently, signed away powers of attorney and securitized their own printing of their own money on the back of you securitizing their empty fiat currency and then making you 100% liable. Whereas the blockchain mechanisms will not allow you to do that. There you have to show proof of work. I really did earn I really did expand energy in getting that one Bitcoin, whether it's in the form of electricity in mining, whether converting assets that I actually made, monies that I actually made into the Bitcoin. So it has a proof of work ledger. You understand that? The fiat currency system doesn't need to show you that. And Europe, or the euro as it were, those bums try to ban any currencies or any monies or any assets or any properties that actually show proof of work. In other words, if you can prove that you dug that hole in the back garden for the purposes of mining your back garden, they're going to ban that. They want to ban it and say you shouldn't, it's illegal for you to show proof of work. But you can mine it, but you can't show proof of work. How does that work? Well, in their quasi-world, anything but the truth and the fact works. Anything but. In the world of facts, the facts speak for themselves, proof of work speak for themselves, and etc. What I wanted to convey to you, this wealth transfer has already taken place. Putin has made it very clear he's leaving the Committee of 300 and they are dead and gone. That's why they are talking, I think actually they've already done it, I believe, that they're kicking him out of the G20. He kicked them out of the G20. Just as my savvy students, direct or indirect, that have been monitoring those live cams in these war zones that are transmitted by the BBC and etc., know that there is no war taking place in the Ukraine, but the government terrorizing its own people and arming gangsters to terrorize the people so the government can come and rescue them from the very people that they put in place to terrorize the people. This is called protection rackets. When you pay the BBC TV license, you're actually paying to be lied to. You understand? When you pay the TV license, BBC TV license, you're actually paying for them to lie to you. Because a license in law means that without which, if they don't have a license, it would be illegal and breaking the law. So the Vatican issues them a license to lie. Because what is a license? To do something that would be considered illegal or unlawful. So that's why they issue a license. Otherwise, the BBC, without the license, would be open to prosecution from the world. So the Vatican protects them under a system of licensing. If you haven't understood it, let me explain it to you this way. In times of war, the invading or the country that's being invaded would issue licenses to mercenaries to say that if you feel that you need to burn down a field or a house where our own people is there, or steal from them their gold, silver, or their rice, or whatever it is, you may do so. But you have to have this license from the government to say you have the ability to lie, steal, cheat, rape, pillage on the government's department, under the government's permission. That's what these systems are. So as long as you keep listening to these pundits that sold you the idea that you need to get yourself into debt, are the ones that are screwing you over now by getting you to move into a poor mentality, poor mindset where there is no solution. No, look around you. People are earning more money, making more money than they ever done so. But they're doing it in the mind to move their money to a safer place, which is in the digital world, in the crypto world. You see, in the fiction world, they believe a crypt is where you put dead people in, not realizing that a crypt is where a crypt is usually found in a church. And a crypt in a church is another way of saying it's a vault. And a vault is more safer than a safe, because a safe is only keeping it safe from your family. But a vault, yeah, I know it sounds peculiar, but the biggest thieves into safe breaking is actually your own family. It can't keep out thieves. But a vault is protected 24 hours a day and has guards, and that's why they put it in a church. A church is not a place where you think it is. A church is actually the store of value of that county. Okay, that's what it is. That's what the Church of England is. It's a bank. So when you believe in the tales that Jesus kicked out the bankers from the synagogues and etc., that's the worst thing that could happen. That means the money is now open to theft. You see, you know by listening to me now with the 100% proofs that I give you that the world actually lives inside a mirror. Okay? It lives inside a mirror. You understand that? It lives inside a mirror. These belief systems are inside a mirror, so you don't actually see the factual world. Yeah? So, the savvy know that the rich are getting poorer because they're totally dependent upon fiat currency. Okay, they're actually getting poorer because inflation is eating away their life. Because the ability to do things at the moment with factual money is non-existent, because factual money doesn't work for them. They have been so used to lying and cheating as the stock market asses were. They were actually rigged up. The stock market was actually rigged up to strip money away from poor people or working class people into the hands of the stock market holders, called the market makers. Look it up, market makers. They float the entire world stock exchanges on the back of your promissory notes, called securities. Yeah, exchange and commission, Securities and Exchange Commission. It's you that commissioned the Securities and Exchange Commission to trade or exchange your securities to back up their failing corporations. That's how they made you and your country liable for their losses. That's why they have to lose the money, because if they don't, they can't come after yours. You understand what I'm talking about? If you haven't understood it, this is the tool which they are using. Okay? This is the tool that they are using. It's called mirroring. All they're doing is they're mirroring everything in your world, so you don't actually see how the real world works. You understand? Ladies and gentlemen, the stock markets around the world will not survive, because their world of lying will be caught up and exposed by a simple computer program called blockchain, because it's a public ledger. The Federal Reserve Bank is a private ledger, non-public. Their capacity in their private capacity have an infinite way of lying to you, or just simply not telling you anything. Do you understand that? Not telling you anything. In the public, whether you tell the truth or don't tell the truth or withheld, the computer program itself will just flush it out, because you can't do anything on that platform unless it shows proof of work, proof of originality, and authentic, and whether it's authentic or not. And to traumatize people out of that, they prepared you decades before, like Terminator. The movie Terminator is about the live cams that are around the world. The movie Terminator is about you not ever picking up the idea or being traumatized from it. That a computer program called an autonomous, decentralized, autonomous organization. That's what that computer program is. They're so frightened of it because what it does, it goes looking for the information and makes it available. Yeah, so it's like the computer program goes into the Federal Reserve and says, hey, there's no proof of work. There is no proof that they actually have any value to actually print these things called the US dollar. I think you understand what I'm saying, whereas Bitcoin, it's proof of work. So you can see how the euro are so screwed in their backsides and so screwed in their minds. They've got worms and maggots in their minds. You got no choice but to flush these people down the toilet, and that's where they're going. The war that you are taking place, is actually a psychological war. At the moment, the US dollar is supreme insofar as that it can back its money with a mineral called oil, as well as other minerals. It's not restricted. It is not restricted to just oil. There are gold, silver, and all these sort of things, as well as the greatest assets, or the greatest mineral, which is you, because you securitized that. In other words, you provided your own body and the things that you do as security instruments. So if the Federal Reserve Bank, which is private, fail, they come after you. That's why your homes, your houses, your businesses are at a precarious situation. That's why the mortgage markets, housing markets are always failed, are always rigged up to fail. Otherwise, they can't they can't recycle. They can't take it off you and sell it off as a higher price. You understand what I'm saying? Everything that you know exists only in the mirror. Okay? It doesn't actually exist how it actually works. So let's come back to the mineral of oil. The reason why the oil prices are going to become impossible to deal with is because your existing controllers at this moment, called titans, they have decided to destroy polluting, highly toxic forms of industry, which are oil-based. Your petroleum industry is not restricted to just oil in cars and petrol and etc. It's in your fertilizers, it's in your poisons, it's in the pharmaceutical industry, it's in the plastics. The entire industry runs on poisoning the world, and their hope was to get to this point where they've locked the entire earth itself into serving them, which is the Olympians. What they've failed. The Olympians are just pieces of, as I've said to you before, dog feces stuck on man's shoe. Yeah. So what they're doing, that's just one element, is that they are hacking away at that oil price to make it so inaccessible, to make it work, to not make it work, as it were. It's not a viable product because it's a highly toxic, polluting chemical that the earth produces that needs to be in the ground. not out of ground. This is a mineral that the earth produces to be in the ground. And yes, in certain parts, like in Russia, oil just simply seeps out of the ground. You can actually go and shovel it up as tar or coal. Coal is dried oil. It is not trees fossilized. Okay? It might have trees and branches in it that fell into it, but oil, coal, that is just evaporated oil residue with all the carbon locked in. You understand? They lied to you on a profound level. These industries, coal industries, oil industries, these heavily polluting, purposely polluting industries are earmarked for extinction. Okay? Your cars by 2025 will become worthless. The cars that run on oil will become worthless, because by 2030, all cars that run on petrol will be gone globally. So you've got to ask yourself, why is Saudi Arabia selling cars still that run on petrol? They don't even have battery cars, as it were. It's because they're screwing you over. Okay, they're screwing you over. The vehicles, the transport systems are already in place. The vehicles, the motorbikes, the battery-powered motorbikes, and they go very fast. They have a very long reach. These cars, they are already in place. They are not waiting to be manufactured. They are already in place. They'll be sent out all over the world by 2025. Okay, to meet the Agenda 2030 criteria. What I'm saying to you, what you thought was an asset to your world will become redundant. It's like if I was the king of a country, I would just simply ban a particular cell phone, and that cell phone in that country will become worthless. Which bit of this do you guys need to calculate any further? Okay? And please, with things like that famous car manufacturer, and I don't want to mention names, that CEO that talks so much on the internet, that's an actor. The purpose of that luxury battery-covered vehicle is to collect data, because that's only second-generation autonomous, second-generation technology. Fourth-generation technologies are already in existence, and they are totally autonomous, decentralized, autonomous cars, which means they require no input from you. All they do, this particular famous car manufacturer that sells his cars to extraordinary levels of money, all it's doing is collecting data for those fourth-generation vehicles. All it does is just collect. It's a data gathering device that you've actually paid for, and they're harvesting the data using your money, your time, and making it look like it's a sexy vehicle. Look, I have given you all the tools that you need to be able to move yourself out of this mirror. And if you continue listening to people that already put you in debt, then of course you'll become extinct. You know, for the men and women of this planet, they will flourish. For the humans, extinction is inevitable. Yeah, it's inevitable. I'll end this if I've explained it to you, you know, in a coherent way, then I'm happy. If I haven't, then I feel that I have not communicated with you. You see, as a as a Chief Federal Postal Court judge and plenipotentiary judge, and just me as a man, I have the ability to ban things and also to bring things in. But the world has to come to me to make that happen. Or I might do these things to aid my students or the process of the Federal Postal Court. And one of them was to ban humans, because humans, as I explained to you before, is not a man or a woman. That's why it's called human. It comes under the color of law, coloring of the law. That's what human means. It means many colors of law and many colors of title. Look it up, color of title, color of law, which all it does, it reduces you to being less than a man. And if you're less than a man, then of course you're licensed, because you're not a man. You're not a self-governing, autonomous creature. You understand? And that word is controlled by the UN in its various member countries. They actually own the copyright to it. So when you use that word, you have human rights. You just surrendered yourself to the UN. So when I banned it, they respected it. They've now banned human rights because it takes away your capacity as a man. It's a lesser version of what you are and not even controlled by you. It's under charter, like you chartering an aeroplane or a yacht or a rowboat or chartering a course in your sat-nav. They're all charters. So when you put in the coordination, the federal government knows where you're going and you've chartered that. And they make the appropriate adjustments on the road for your car as well as all other cars. Hence, they can misdirect you for a little while to get you back on course at a later stage, or free up the road with redirecting hundreds of domestic cars in favor of commercial cars and giving them priority over a particular road. All these things are happening and has been happening for decades, but you folks are not aware. So I even get emails saying, Mark, fill out this petition to say that we want our human rights back. I give mankind the ability to unslave themselves from the world of human rights. And like the stupid slaves people are without even thinking about it, they just want back a system already that they don't want you to be in. They've respected it, that you're a man or a woman, but they want to go back to becoming human. It's another word for a slave. You remember Moses when he took the people out of Egypt, out of slavery. It's a narrative, yeah? This is not an actuality. We have no idea how these histories work. It's a narrative. It's a cartoon way. It's an Aesop's tale. Okay, it's an Aesop's tale. You remember when the slaves made the journey out of the protection of Egypt as slaves and into the wilderness where they are forced to become men and women. They said, at least our slave masters used to give us meat to eat. And then of course Moses went completely mad because he realized that he's picked up slave mentality and they don't want to be set free. It's exactly the same analogy, and he becomes enraged. You get rid of human rights, and stupid people, and there are so many of them, stupid people want it back without even knowing what human means. You see, for those type of people, ladies and gentlemen, we can't make excuses for them anymore. If their world is to become extinct and they're to become extinct, so be it. But you and I can no longer be subject to their willful ignorance, and we pay the cost for their ignorance. I think you understand what I'm saying. Look to yourself to see how the world works, rather than through the narrative of the people that are on YouTube television stations, because they're all actors and they're performing. I'm on a geometric level field with you. Yeah. Penalty of perjury is if I lie, I should be punished for it. What they call penalization. Okay, the word penal comes from the word penance, to show that you are sorry for what you did and that you pay for it. Something that the Archbishop of Canterbury is going to find out very soon from me. Yeah. Listen, I wish you all the best. Find the first store of value that holds value and increases in value is the business model that my students are taking place. They're happy to take up a loan of fiat currency of 100,000 or more and invest it in something greater that yields greater values. And since the money itself was actually printed for you, it's actually your money and not the custody of the Federal Reserve Bank. Did you know that? Because your security is that note that says so. Figure it out and you will understand that the world has always been yours. Thank you for listening. I will try to put more of these types of educational material together. I am sorry that I usually take a few minutes into the video to warm up, as it were, because I am unrehearsed. I don't do any rehearsals. I am not a performer. I am not a stage performer. I don't follow scripts. Yeah, all negative expressions. But what I do is when there's something for me to educate you on, I press that go live button and I go at it. Yeah. So for my Tricks and Traps University students, the next training or lecture is on the 10th, which is a Sunday, April. And I think it's at 9 o'clock UK time. I think by that time, that will be in maritime. When the clocks, I think, go forward or backwards, I never can remember. It goes back into maritime clock. That's why you have Greenwich Mean Time, which runs on a different clock, to the corporate clock, which is United Kingdom corporate clock, which can be changed here and there, but the maritime clock does not change. You see, savvy investors know about these things, but the uneducated, the ones that keep reaching for human rights, will never know these things because they keep selling themselves to words that they never created. Why would you pick up a word that you did not create and that you don't have any control of? Just think about it. Why would you pick up the word human, black, white, or any one of these things when you did not create it? I don't think African people are so stupid enough to pick up the word to call themselves Black Africans. That was a title given to you to remove your position as a man. You know that. Yeah, to pick up words that other people given you. If I saw you walking down the street, if I saw you walking down the street and I said, hey, you, I've just basically called you straw man. Or if you answer a name called Bartery, Baratry, a name that is created by the Bar Association for you, it's a variant spelling of your name, only resembles in phonetics, and I call you, and because it sounds like it and you respond to that name rather than looking around as to what's going on, instinctively you respond to that because you've been brainwashed and terrorized to pick up these variant names that the Bar Association create for you as their slave. It's a response. It's an ignorant response, one that has consequences if you keep picking up these goddamn names. They are damned names. You know that the word legislation means the undoing of God's law. You know that. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to undo your position as a man. Because a man controls all of his banking, his wife, his children, and a woman does exactly the same thing with her man and with her babies and with her lands and with her womb, with her genetic code, with her genuinity. I think you get it. I believe you are now getting it. So perhaps I'll do a video on, do you get it now? Do you get it now? And the answer has to be yes. Thank you.